You're listening to the Spicy Dividend. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 51 of the Spicy Dividend podcast. I hope you enjoyed episode 50. You got a good old classic dividend grinder style rant in episode 50. Hope you enjoyed it. It felt good a little bit. It felt a little good to rant again, a little cathartic, I guess you could say. Although things in my life have been going pretty well so far, so I can't complain. I can't say the rant has been too needed and necessary, but once again, it did feel good to rant a little bit. So in this podcast episode, I don't think it'll be a long one. Who knows? I can always go off on tangents and whatnot, but I just want to give a little bit of my thoughts on why I was kind of scared to invest in dividends. So if you've watched my YouTube videos at all, and I don't expect a lot of my podcast listeners to watch my YouTube channel, it's just Road to Retire, no spaces. But on yesterday's video, I decided that I am going to take my side hustle income, so stuff from Mechanical Turk, Remote Task, Data Annotation.tech, eBay selling my old video games, credit card cashback. I'm going to take all my side hustle income, and instead of putting it on the principal of my house, which I have been doing for 4 months now, additional principal to the house, not the minimum payment. So instead of doing that, I'm going to use it to pay off my recurring monthly expenses that I have. Now, I'm not talking about groceries or getting gas in my car. I'm talking about stuff that the amount pretty much never changes. So these three objects include it. Luckily, I have my crappy car that I paid off around 6 or 7 years ago. But these three expenses include just my cat is going off. I'm sorry. Hey, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Anyway, the three expenses include my cell phone, which is only $20 a month, thanks to a T-Mobile Extended Military Family Plan. My brother-in-law was in the military, and I thank him for setting up the plan to getting me a cheap price of $20. Unlimited talk and text. It's great. Unlimited data. So that's $20 a month. And then I have T-Mobile Internet, which kind of sucks, but at the same time, it does get the job done for my wife and I, who both work at home. Not great speeds, but at the same time, only paying $50 a month. It does work. Not great for video gaming at all, but it is what it is. It's cheap, and maybe down the line I'll convert to a better internet provider. But 20 and 50 there is 70, and then finally I have my car insurance payment, which is around $130 a month. So you're looking at pretty much $200 a month that I have in recurring expenses. Now, normally I probably would have put like electricity, utilities, gas payments, garbage, water, sewer, blah, 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 blah. But I actually don't pay that. My wife pays that. And what happens is I pay an additional $400 a month for our minimum mortgage payments. So I pay $400 more than she does, and then she pays all of the utilities or whatever. So I'm not ripping her off, but that's just how we do it, so I don't have to worry about those monthly expenses. I'm not including my minimum monthly payment on the house because I'll never be able to reach side hustle income that much to cover that, at least not now, but I don't think I'm going to be able to cover that for years on end. So over this past weekend, I seriously was thinking about investing into a dividend fund. So basically take my side hustle money that I'm getting, and instead of either applying it to the house or applying it to my monthly expenses like I am now through a high yielding savings account, instead of doing that, I was going to start up the dividend fund again. And I only was going to put into two positions, and the two positions were JP Morgan's equity fund, which is a high or premium quality equity fund. I forget what the direct term is. It's JEPI. And the other fund was one of my favorites, if not my favorite, closed-end fund, which was PIMCO Dynamic Income Fund, ticker symbol PDI. And this is what I want to talk about. So I was doing research on it, and it spooked me. I'm not going to lie. And that's because PIMCO had a huge amount of exposure to Credit Suisse and And when Credit Suisse got bought out, a lot of their delinquent debt got written off. And PIMCO, who owns PDI and a ton of income funds, they're known as a huge bond and income fund giant. But PIMCO had exposure to $807 million worth of Credit Suisse's convertible bonds that ultimately got written off. So PIMCO had $807 million worth of exposure. And, it's not like this is don't get me wrong, PIMCO is a huge fund, okay? It has a lot of money to it. However, it's not like, like an Apple where it's like if they had like an 807 million charge, it's like, yeah, it's a lot, but at the same time, is it that much? But because PIMCO is such a well-known entity for their closed-end funds and income-paying ventures, 807 million, they're known for such consistent dividend payments every month, or distributions, since it's closed-end fund. They're known for such consistent distributions that this rocked it, and it brought it back to its NAV, its net asset value, and that has not happened for a PIMCO fund in a long time, but the share price dove like $4 from like 21 to 17 off this Credit Suisse event. And, PIMCO's advisors and the people who are managing the portfolio for these income funds haven't really talked about it. It's kind of concerning, and it got me kind of concerned. Now, I know what you're saying. It's, I could just not include PDI and just invest straight into JEPI, and not have to worry about it at all. Don't have to worry about closed-end funds, and I get broader exposure into the market. Well, I don't know how safe JEPI is either. So, for paying monthly expenses, now that I'm getting such a high yield on my online high yielding savings account, now that I'm getting north of 3.5, close to 4% now, just on money that's guaranteed in a bank that's FDIC insured, why risk putting in the dividends right now? And I've talked about this priorly in a prior episode of the Spicy Dividend podcast this year, but the Credit Suisse thing kind of spooked me. And if I had a lot more positions established right now, I'd be looking at this weekend price and be going all in, because wow, I'm getting such a good discount on one of the premier entities with income funds. Why would I not load up? Because right now it's yielding close to 15% after this price drop, and they haven't dropped the distribution. They just came out with what they're distributing for the month of April, and it has not changed since March, and it has not changed from this Credit Suisse thing at all, which, who knows, is that sustainable? Are they just doing it so the stock doesn't have a total freak out with investors selling off because the distribution got cut? Because the distribution has not decreased for PDI's fund since inception. It's only increased, and it's been 22 cents now, for about 22 cents a month per share for about 10 years now. So could you imagine if they cut their dividend? There'd be mass chaos. But, I'm just a little bit worried, and that kind of spooked me. And, do I really want to go all in on a stock when something like this huge write-off that caused this share price to plummet and, possibly could lead to a distribution cut? Do I really want to go all in on one when this is teaching me to diversify more? I know JEPI is well more diversified than something like a PIMCO in terms of market exposure, but PDI has a ton of holdings in and of itself, a ton of bonds, a ton of government bonds, corporate bonds, all sorts of convertible notes, all sorts of mortgage, everything. I know it's also well diversified, but at the same time, it's like at the end of the day, you're still only holding two holdings. If I were to do what I was planning on doing before I researched it more into the weekend and just said, what is the ultimate goal here? If I just want to pay off my monthly expenses, why do I want to have any volatility in my investment at all? So I just said, look, the high yielding savings account. It's just the right way to go right now for what I'm trying to accomplish. So I have a feeling that I'm going to need to buy a newer car. I'll never buy it brand new again, but I'll need to update my car if I do have a kid in the near future. So why not try to earn more than $200 a month to cover my expenses from side hustles, and anything extra I can roll over into the next month, and also try to save a little for the next car, because who knows, maybe if I earn enough money from side hustles, well over $200 a month to pay for the monthly expenses, and I save enough to have like a nest egg, I guess you want to call it, I could use that then for monthly car payments and maybe an increased car insurance, but I could use that for monthly car payments, and it would be a heck of a lot easier on my personal bank account if I used my side hustle income for that. So it's just a little bit of thoughts that are running through my head. I still like my original thoughts of, as soon as I can pay the house off, using what I would use for additional principal payments and normal mortgage payments, I would use that money to start a dividend fund and live off those funds. I still like that idea because, obviously interest rates right now are just absurd, and I'm not going to be getting north of 3.5% on a savings account, probably longer. Like, I can't imagine this lasting longer than 2023. So, by the end of 2024, who knows? I could be looking, instead of getting like 3.8% or whatever I'm getting right now, I could be looking at 1%, and I'm not earning any interest at all. And at that point, dividends look more attractive. But the point being is, down the line, the dividend play is going to be a lot more attractive for me than it is right now. If I'm just using, my hard-earned side hustle money to get my monthly payments covered, then that's all that really matters. I don't want to worry about losing my money. I can still gain a good amount of interest. So any interest that I do end up gaining, I could just roll right into the bill paying and make life a little bit easier on myself. So that's just my thought process on why I got a little bit spooked by investing in dividends this weekend, and ultimately just yield it. I'm saying the word yield a lot in this episode. That's why I ultimately chose a high yielding savings account. So a quick little episode of the Spicy Dividend Podcast. Nothing too spicy today, but it's just my thought process on dividends right now and where I'm at in life. I just turned 32 last week. Where do I really want to be in 10 years? Well, I'm hoping in 10 years that I can have the house almost paid off if all goes well, and monthly expenditures become few and far between that have to come out of my own pocket. So who knows, maybe I'll use this savings account that I started up to not only pay for monthly expenses that are fixed, like I explained, but, also things like groceries and gas and maybe, surprise medical bills or birthday gifts or whatnot. That'd be great. Eventually down the line, when I'm older in my 40s and 50s, I do want a traditional dividend fund to help pay my monthly expenses, and it'll be better for the long run, and it'll be much easier to get a yield and much easier to pass on to future generations if I so choose. So that's all it. That's it for episode 51 of the Spicy Dividend Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next episode, and have a great day.